Okay. So when you get your product positioning right, every aspect of product development and marketing is exponentially easier, and you're going to save a lot of time and money. So I'm going to start with a really short explanation of my background, as it has specifically informed how I approach product positioning. So I've had many lives, and I started my career in automotive design and automotive consumer research, working for Nissan. So I was on the team that designed the first Xterra. So why is this relevant? It's because this vehicle was extremely successful right out of the gate because we had a very specific ideal customer profile. At the time, every other SUV in this class was designed for a much broader market. In essence, it was anyone who wanted an alternative to a station wagon. So the Xterra, however, was the first SUV in this class to niche down, which means it was specifically for a much more narrow target. We were solving the problem specifically of outdoor athletes. So athletes at mountain bike trailheads, rock climbers, runners, hikers. It was people who got messy and injured. So we knew our target customer really, really well. We spent a lot of time with them. And as such, in the design and in the marketing, the product immediately resonated with our target. It was a real game changer for Nissan. So then I left Nissan and went to 3form. Jeremy, who was just talking, he and I worked together at 3form, so I'm so happy he's here. So I joined 3form as a head of product strategy and marketing. At the time, we had an innovative resin material. It was a totally new category, new class of materials, and no architect or designer really understood what to do with it. So my team and I, including Jeremy, we grew the company from 8 to 100 million in 8 years. So I attribute our success to how clearly we define the ideal customer profile. I'll just call it the ICP from here on. In the product, how we clearly defined it in both product strategy and how we carried this through to the marketing. Pictured here is the same exact material for this bar top in Las Vegas as an exterior facade in Chicago. Same material, but we positioned it completely differently for interior hospitality designers and for architects. For interiors, we led with beauty and aesthetics and how it communicated your brand story in a space. For exteriors, we led with structural integrity. And of course, the visual was important, the aesthetic, but it was structural integrity first and foremost. Since leaving 3form, I now work with young growing companies. I work with my team at CMO Zen to define, among many things, but one is to help companies define their ICP. I'm both in the marketing phase of the work. Across all the companies I work for, both large and small, I have noticed a very common mistake. It's amazing. It's from startups to 100 million to $500 million companies. It's very common for companies to be product centric. And this means it's inadvertent, it's unaware, but it means that the product is the hero in both how they think about their product roadmap and how they think about their marketing strategies. But in reality, the success really comes from a customer-centric focus. So this kind of plays out as the difference between, let me tell you about my product, how great it is. Let me give you a feature list, to I see and understand your desperate problem, and I have a very unique solution for you. This is really important because ultimately, people don't buy products. They buy solutions to their problems. And so we must speak to our customer and their problems. Without this, marketing totally misses the mark and does not connect. So this is an example of a day planner. So it's the difference between, look at our day planner. It has goal setting pages, a weekly preview section. Oh my gosh, look at our brand new today, how we've done the daily to-do list. It's so unique. And the paper is extremely high quality. We move from here to, I can see that you're struggling to carve out time for yourself. Balancing family, work, me time is challenging for most people. You're not alone. And our day planner was designed to help people just like you. So I just pulled these quickly. This is one planner that on the homepage of their website, top of content basically talks about themselves. They are the hero. We're passionate about what we make. We've got high quality materials. Here's where we're from. Versus this is full focus planner, which is achieve more while doing less. So yes, it's a day planner, but ultimately it helps you to achieve your higher level goal of working on what matters in your life so you can achieve your goals. So we have to confidently know, if we're going to be customer centric, we have to confidently know and validate our ideal customer profile. Who they are, and this is how, so you can target them in your marketing and where to find them, their true pain points, so you can speak meaningfully and connect with your messaging, how your product uniquely solves their problem, which is unlike the competition. So this is your competitive strategy, and why they choose you. So the mistake number 2 that most make, people tend to shift from product centric to customer centric, but they want to be all things to everyone. And this is because companies don't want to limit the size of their available market. Why should you, right? Why can't I sell my day planner to a single professional in their 30s, and also the mom in her 40s who's at home managing 4 kids, for example? But if you don't determine your niche, you're going to have terrible marketing ROI, because without a defined audience, you speak about problems in general, and a wide audience will feel like you understand them a little bit. But speaking directly and consistently to your target's specific pain points, you'll position yourself as someone who can help in that specific situation. And so if they think you can help them, people are much more likely to buy. So Segway is kind of a classic case study of a company that was supposed to be incredibly successful, but missed the mark because they did not narrowly define their market enough. They tried to be a general purpose product, but what they needed to do instead is find an unmet need and position the Segway to fill that better than anyone else. So when you look at determining which segment you should be in, of the broadest to the most narrow, where you fit, where's the great place to be to achieve your goals, you're looking for the largest available market that you can have, right? Because you don't want to limit, but yet small enough to have a very tailored solution. It tends to be that when a company, when you're new in a space and there's not much competition, you can go for a broader niche, but then as it becomes more crowded, to carve out something that you can own, you niche down. This is an example of, a whiteboard product. So just saying that this exists in the physical product world and in the tech world, and whiteboards are a super, super crowded space right now. So you can see, I took this from an article, how each one is known for accomplishing a very specific goal for a specific person. So you've got Limnu for teaching students remotely versus Mural for big remote team meetings. So the product positioning statement, a product positioning statement is a tool in which we ensure that we're fully customer focused. When you write your complete statement, I've broken it out into chunks right here, but the complete statement really encapsulates every part that you need to analyze to make sure your product is successful. So who the product is for, their exact pain point, how our product uniquely solves the problem, unlike any other product, your competitive strategy, and how it does this, like your secret sauce, why you're special, your distinctive, defining, unique feature or features. So I'm just going to show a case study to make this very real, because a lot of companies say, well, I don't have the budget, I don't have the time to do this work. And this is probably 5 days of work with a team of 2 people. This was a product called Dokazoo. I did not name this company. It's interesting. But Dokazoo was stuck at 8 million in sales. At launch, they had a unique product that solved a desperate need for a very broad market. So broad was okay. But now there were competitors and their growth was stalled. Their only distribution was through Amazon. They lacked a clear competitor strategy, and they vaguely knew who their customer was. So they were in a feature war. Extender Reach had copied their product and was working hard to steal market share. They really were stuck and didn't know how to get out of this war. Simultaneously, their only distribution was on Amazon. They wanted to develop their own online presence and with a new sales channel and create a true brand. So I came in to help them figure out their product positioning. And this product positioning informs their rebrand, their marketing strategy, their content marketing, and also serve to help them figure out their next product strategy. That's why I love product positioning, because I've worked across, product development and marketing and brand, and this is such a great tool to bring everything that you're doing in alignment. So their hypothesis was that the primary target customer was older people who wanted to stay safe, to stay off of a ladder. When we looked at their data, their available data that they had, I was able to identify three customer groups. So we had the active senior that they thought was primary was actually just 22% of the market. The gadget guy, we're calling him, was 40% of the market, and the chief home operator, the mom, was the rest. So to determine the ideal niche, we mapped out a segmentation study with the broadest market being all extension pole users, and then a quick branching off between the opportunities for the commercial market, professional window cleaners, and then also the consumer home market. Within consumer home, we have exterior use and interior use. And the exterior and interior typically fall to different personas, different people using the product. So we created a hypothesis of what problem this pole was solving, this extension pole, for these three different personas. You could say, yes, in general, it solves the problem of just cleaning up high, but it's actually much more specific than that. We have to drill down to a deeper problem being solved. So after we developed the hypothesis, we spent time doing an in-home field study with each of these three people. In the study, we looked at the poles that they had bought and why. We looked at their purchasing decision. We looked at how they use the pole and actually watched them in action clean. So this is the chief home officer. And this was, we had her show us how she cleaned before her pole and recorded it. And this was super interesting, because what we found is that when we watched her in this sort of ethnographic research, we saw that she had to climb up and down that ladder about 8 times to clean the entire room. She talked about wanting to clean, but actually putting it off because it was so time consuming. She had to pull the ladder out of the back shed. And so she ultimately would just avoid the whole task. So for her, the desperate need was to save time and make it easier. With the, I think to save time, I'll go here. Okay, so this is a summary. So we also looked at the most obvious distinctive difference was between the woman inside the home and the smart gadget guy. So Doug, this persona, he bought his extension pole because it was a smart tool. He loved the idea of one pole with 6 attachments on the end. He loved the engineering. He loved the feel of it. He spent weeks researching what pole he would buy, versus the mom, the CHO, she just wanted to save time. She went down to Ace Hardware. She bought the first one available. She never cross-shopped. She talked about beauty in her products, like these interior home appliances and the cooking pot that she loved the style of, the warm colors, whereas Doug was shopping in the hardware section, something that had a tool-like look. So we identified key messages that would resonate with each persona. One tool, 6 tasks versus save time and get it done. We mapped out a whole messaging strategy, knowing that our broadest niche had to speak to both of these people, but we could segment and do specific communication for each persona. So we did a data analysis to prove what we learned in the qualitative and created our product positioning statement. And then finally, so the messaging strategy, this is a really nice way to take your product positioning statement and then map it right to your messaging strategy. So everything in blue is the pain point they spoke about. So the pain and the value. The yellow was the unique differences, the competitive differences, distinctive differences, the features that they that created that benefit for them. And then the gray was just like a direct competitor comparison, because a competitor comparison is not necessarily the same for each person. I mean, it is, yes, a competitor comparison is just that, but certain features mattered more for the mom versus the male outside. For the mom, she cared that it was microfiber and that she could rinse it and wash it in the sink. Doug, our exterior guy, loved the unique way that the extension pole locked in place. So then you can take this messaging and create your strategy, your ad strategy, your website strategy, your marketing content strategy. And so this is how their website, this is what their site looks like today. The design team who did the rebrand decided to, it has more of a masculine tool feeling to it, but you can see the messaging really speaks to the CHO. Spend less time thinking about doing work and more time enjoying the satisfaction of done. And then you could see the active senior here. She's represented. Let your ladder collect dust, reach new levels of clean without it. And now this is some validation, speaking to the man, price and quality, aluminum pole. So this is really, really important, because if we skip this step, it's going to make all of your marketing ROI not as optimized. You're going to spend way more time testing and trying different messages. It's really important when you create your look and feel who you're going to resonate with. And if I need to speak to the older woman, the mom, and I need to speak to that guy, then I'm going to have that in mind of how I communicate in my brand, and also what I write about. So your ideal customer profile really impacts your product strategy, your marketing strategy, and your brand strategy. Oh, and duck. So that's it.
Jill, that was so insightful. That was amazing. Thank you so much. So it looks like we have about 11 minutes left.
Great job, Jill. Really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we do have a couple questions in the chat if we want to start there. The first one is, what tools did you use to find the personas that use the product?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this company had an email list because they'd been in market for about 4 years. But if you don't, we can do paid surveys. You can pay like roughly $20 per survey respondent and get the data that way. So we create profile screeners to define who's taking the survey and qualify them. Yep. Did that answer the question? Any further question on that? Clarification?
So, I mean, I asked the question, I actually direct messaged to Brittany. Thanks for passing it along.
Yeah, of course.
So when you say like an email list, like how big of an email list do you need to really validate that you nailed your customer?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it used to be the rule of thumb was statistically significant was 200 people, but I think the thinking now has changed so that it is really the amount of people you need to feel comfortable with making a business decision. So we've, I've done surveys where we're comfortable with 140 people. But I feel like, so yeah.
Okay, and then you use like a tool to, put your email list into, and you get information back on from, what type of people these are then? Okay.
Yes. And so what I recommend is, if you're going to do this, it's important to do qualitative research first so that you know what questions to ask. If you go right to that, tells you Yeah, you need to know what you want to need, what you should measure and count. And so typically I find it super, it's usually good enough to have conversations with a group of people in your network to say who's the ideal customer for this product, and start to just sort of have organic conversations. And then across many different people that you talk to, you'll say, it will be like, oh, this makes sense. This is my hypothesis.
Okay, thank you.
And look at your competitors as well to see who they're marketing to. Okay.
So you might have just answered that, but my question actually was, what is the best way to validate your ICP and positioning statement if you have yet to make any sales and so you don't have access to that customer data?
Right. That was,
Yeah.
that's what, did I answer it completely? Does anyone need more? Okay, so Jordan is asking, if you're on tight on budget, what are some tactics you can use to hone in on your ICP without a big spend? So I would say it's the same. So, you can also, one thing you can do is go out in social media. You can go into groups that are in your target. So think about where your customers, your target customer spends their time, and you can join groups and ask messages. You can do polls within groups. So we used to do a lot of Facebook polls and get really great discussions going. You can also, sometimes there's available data packages out there that I look for that are free. So you can do a Google search, and the next question is, what kind of budget would you suggest setting aside for this exercise or service? That is a great question. I think it depends on your starting point, how much you know about your ICP to begin with. But I'm thinking, like, with the survey work, I think you're in probably $5,000 at a minimum, I think, to really understand. And that's why I always emphasize that this informs your product strategy, your marketing strategy, and your brand strategy. It's the best money spent that makes you save money later in time. Okay, I like Parker Smith's question. I'm curious if it's a good idea to target multiple ICPs for the same product. If so, do you completely change your messaging? Yes, that's a really, really good question. So it depends. When you go to market, I think it's strategically the best to have one ICP. And as I said before, you have your ICP, which is your broadest market, right? So with the Docapol example, the broadest market is extension cleaning pole for home use. But then we have our niche, our personas within that broad market, right? So when you go to market, you're understanding who's the most general messages you have to speak to. And when we do our messaging testing, we will often, I've explored 3 different people, personas within that segment. Now, when I test, I will do message tests for each one of those people, messages that I learned that resonate each one of those people, and then see where the collective number is. Because even if I do this research with data, when you're out there in the native world, you're going to get even more information of what works in that online, when people are on their phones, on the website. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big distinctive here is, though, I explained that, but with Docapol, it's like it would be too much, I think, for them at this stage growth of their company to be targeting commercial and residential at the same time.
Okay. That's helpful. Thanks.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Whoever.
I have a follow-up about the surveys. Do you think the surveys are better conducted internally or externally? Do you think there's any validation with customer feedback on those two sources?
The surveys are always to your target customer.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, let's say I decided to survey my own customers on my own email list that I have. Do you
Yes,
think that's better done direct as the company and being a representative as like the customer feels like you're listening? Or do you think
yes.
they're more honest to like an independent source?
That's a great question. I think there's value in both. And your customers know you. So I usually start with my internal customer base. Yeah. And I feel like you're going to get good respondents, but you could also do something to an unknown group. That's value. But if I had a certain budget to spend, I would pick the internal base first. You're called the installed base.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have any alternative ways that they approach product positioning or anything, additional techniques you use to understand the position of your product?
I'll just throw a plug in for watering hole analysis is something that's been relatively helpful. So we kind of run those with a lot of companies that we're working with, Jill. Kind of these, find out where they're online, what they're talking about, who they're interacting with, who the influencers are, and use that to maybe seed the groundwork of your research, or to even just passively listening to their conversations to glean information from them. So I found that to be a helpful way to start to validate that, hey, this is actually the right people for us.
I like that, Jordan. Yeah, I was referring to that when I spoke about where they spend their time, but I love the watering hole analysis, naming of that, because it really is like, hey, it really makes you think, like, where are they going for their water? Where are they going to spend their time for their enjoyment, to find information? Anthony. Yes.
Hi, Jill. Good to see
Hi.
you.
You too.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, love the content you covered. It really helped me. I've got a problem. I did do some research. I feel like half of it. So I'll give you a little context. The SaaS, the product that I'm creating, has 2 users. It's going to be B2G, so straight to the government. So mayors and police chiefs will be purchasing the product.
Yes.
But it will benefit the citizen as
Yes.
well. And so it's hard. Like, I did the citizen research, got great responses from it, really like telling items and good need for it. But at the end of the day, like, mayors and police chiefs, it's hard to get in front of them. And then it's hard for them to allocate budget to something that's completely new. And so just trying to see how to validate it for them, like, and when it's so hard to get in front of them.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, so it's just an outreach thing. You're saying, how do you have those conversations with them?
Right.
I mean, I would approach it in a networking. Who do you know that knows? Looking at your connections, I would probably pull a list on LinkedIn, and start there. And then you can also do a study. You can do a campaign on LinkedIn with some LinkedIn automation to reach out and connect with this target. First, you ask for a connection, and then you follow it up with, hey, can I get on the call with you for 10 minutes? I'm trying to solve a problem that I think you know a lot about and that would help you. So now your task, Anthony, is your hook to get them on the phone. Right? It's positioning it as,
Right.
How can you align your interests with theirs, make them feel smart, that they have something to give, and then invite them to a 10-15 minute chat.
Great. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so just want to say we are at time. So anyone who has to hop off, thank you so much for joining us today. We really hope we'll see you again. We are also going to have a short survey pop up that if you would all mind filling out, it's just going to really help us get some information on how we can better serve these Midday Connects. Jill, if you have another minute, we do have one more question in the chat.
Yes.
This I think from Parker, and about do you incentivize those who you send surveys to?
Yeah, yes, if they're not in my internal group, more often you need to incentivize. Sometimes it's tricky because when you incentivize, what's the motivation for answering the survey? But one way of incentivizing that I do a lot is offer to enter, taking the survey, you enter a raffle to win a prize. So there's 1 or 2 great prizes, and then always following up though with saying who won and communicating for that trust. But yeah.
Great, thanks.
Yep.